You ever open your front door and feel like the world's playing a really bad joke on you? That's what happened to me. Tuesday, 4:17 p.m. I had just finished work, still wearing socks and one hoop earring, holding a half-eaten granola bar. And there he was. Marcus, 6 years. No calls. No texts. Not even a happy birthday thrown out of guilt. And now, standing on my porch in the middle of a Texas heat wave, looking like someone I barely recognized, with a 5-year-old boy by his side. Let me back up a second. We were together for 5 years. Me and Marcus. It was the kind of relationship that starts out intense, fiery in the best and worst ways. He made me laugh so hard I'd choke on my drink, and he could make me cry just as fast. We moved in together 2 years in, adopted a dog, talked about marriage, kids, a little fixer-upper near Lake Travis. Then one day, he was just gone. Not metaphorically, literally. He left for work and never came back. No fight, no note, no suitcase missing. At first, I thought something horrible happened. I called hospitals, police stations, even his cousin in El Paso, and then I saw his credit card was used in Arizona 3 days after he disappeared at a gas station. That's when I knew. He left me, and I don't mean we broke up. He vanished. I spent the first year like a ghost, going through the motions. Waking up, working, going to sleep, rinse, repeat. My sister Lena practically had to drag me back into the world. By year 2, I'd boxed up everything that reminded me of him and shoved it into the attic. By year 3, I'd stopped saying his name. And by year 5, I was engaged to someone else. Didn't last, but still. Progress. So yeah, when I opened my front door and saw Marcus standing there, it felt like a ghost had shown up for dinner without calling ahead. And the kid, he looked like a mini version of Marcus. Same sharp jawline, same curly dark hair, but those eyes, those were mine. For a few seconds, I just stood there. He looked just as shocked to see me as I was to see him. "Hey, Kayla," he said, voice low, tired, like we just bumped into each other at a grocery store or something. I didn't move. I didn't blink. Finally, I muttered, "What the hell are you doing here?" Marcus shifted uncomfortably, then looked down at the boy. "This is Aiden," he said quietly. "He's my son." I looked at the kid, then back at Marcus. "Okay?" I said, crossing my arms. "And?" There was a long pause before he said the next part. "I think he might be yours too." I laughed, out loud, not because it was funny, because my brain short-circuited. "What the hell are you talking about?" I asked. "You think I gave birth and forgot?" "No, not like that," he said quickly. "Not biologically, just emotionally. He knows about you, and he needs you." I blinked. "Oh, okay, so now we're playing Mad Libs with trauma?" I wanted to slam the door, wanted to tell him to shove his dramatic little reunion speech where the sun doesn't shine. But that kid, Aiden, he was holding a small stuffed bear and looking up at me like he knew me. And that's what kept me standing there. Eventually, I stepped aside and let them in. Against every good instinct I had, maybe it was curiosity, maybe it was closure, maybe I was just tired of wondering. We sat on the couch. Marcus looked older, like he hadn't slept right in years. His hands fidgeted constantly. Aiden sat beside him, quiet, but close to me. Closer than you'd expect for a kid meeting a stranger. "Where's his mom?" I asked. "She passed," he said. "About 8 months ago. Car accident." I didn't say anything. "And you brought him to me because—" I didn't know where else to go, he said. But more than that, I didn't lie when I said he knows you. He's never met me. "I told him about you," he said, staring at the floor. "About the woman I left. The one I never stopped thinking about. Now I was angry." "Don't do that," I snapped. "Don't show up with a kid and try to romanticize the fact that you vanished like a coward." "I know," he said softly. "You have every right to hate me. I deserve that." I looked over at Aiden. He was sitting quietly, hugging his bear. And those eyes, man. They weren't biologically mine, but they held something I hadn't expected. Trust. I got up and walked to the kitchen. Lena was going to lose her mind when I told her. I poured a glass of water. My hand was shaking. 6 years of silence. And now I was supposed to, what? Just accept this? When I came back into the room, Marcus handed me something. It was a worn envelope, my name written in faded black ink. "I wrote this," he said. 6 years ago. Never mailed it. I know that doesn't fix anything, but it's yours." I didn't open it. Not yet. "Why now?" I asked. "Why come back at all?" His answer was quiet. "Because he asked me if people always leave. And I realized the only person who ever should have stayed was you." That night, after they left, I let them stay for an hour tops. I sat on the edge of my bed and stared at the envelope. I hadn't cried in years. Not over Marcus, not once. But I cried then, because it wasn't about love. Or forgiveness. It was about finally understanding just how deep a wound silence can leave behind. The letter is still unopened on my dresser, and I don't know what I'm going to do next. But one thing I know for sure, that kid looked at me like I was home. And maybe, just maybe, I owe it to both of us to figure out why. I didn't open the letter for 3 days. Not because I didn't want to read it, because I did, badly. But every time I picked it up, my hands started sweating. My stomach would twist like I was 17 again, waiting for a college rejection letter. The truth? I was afraid it would make me feel something I wasn't ready to deal with. Meanwhile, Marcus kept texting. Not often. Once a day, maybe. Always short. Always careful. Just checking in, no pressure. Aiden asked if you have any pets. He drew you a picture. Can I drop it off? I didn't respond at first. Then on the 4th day, I sent back, I have a dog. Her name's Clover. She's old and hates everyone. He replied, Aiden said that means she's like him. I didn't know what to say to that. I didn't tell anyone Marcus had come back. Not Lena, not my coworker Tasha, not even my therapist, who I'd been forgetting to call back for months. It wasn't that I wanted to keep it a secret. I just didn't know what to call it yet. He didn't come back with roses. He came back with a child, and that made things feel heavier than I could carry alone. On Saturday, I finally agreed to meet them at a park near my apartment. It was one of those spots with a half-dead playground, a few ducks, and exactly one working water fountain. Nothing fancy, which, honestly, made it feel safer. Aiden ran ahead while Marcus and I sat on opposite ends of a sun-bleached bench. We didn't talk much at first, just watched the kid climb and jump and laugh like his whole life hadn't just been turned upside down. Then Marcus said, he still wakes up crying some nights. I nodded slowly. Losing a parent does that to a kid. He looked at me carefully. You ever lose anyone? I almost said no, then I realized I had. You? I said. He didn't argue, didn't deflect, just nodded and looked at his hands. After a pause, I asked, what happened? Why did you leave like that? Marcus took a long breath, then said something I didn't expect. My mom. I blinked. Your mom? She was sick, he said. And she didn't want anyone to know. Not even me at first. By the time she told me, it was bad. Stage 4 liver cancer. The kind where the doctors don't offer timelines, just morphine. I remembered meeting her once. Polite, cold, the type of woman who smiled with her mouth but not her eyes. She begged me not to tell you, he said. Said she didn't want pity. Said I had to take care of things. Just go. That still doesn't explain ghosting me, I said flatly. He didn't flinch. She also said you were too good for me. That if I brought you into it, I'd ruin you. And I believed her. I didn't know whether to scream or laugh. So wait, I said. You disappeared for 6 years because your dying mom told you I was too good for you? Not just that, he replied. But yeah, that's what pushed me. And once I was gone, it got harder to come back. I don't know what I expected, maybe a prison stint, maybe a secret second family, but this just felt sad. She passed a year later, he continued. By then, I'd burned the bridge so bad I didn't know how to cross it again. And Aiden? I asked, his face softened. His mom was someone I met during all that. We weren't together long. She was kind. A nurse who looked after my mom at the end. When she died in that crash, Aiden had no one. He glanced toward the playground. And I kept thinking about what my mom said, about ruining people. So I started telling him stories about someone strong, someone who was smart and kind. I told him about you. My throat tightened. I didn't lie, Marcus added. He knew you weren't around, but when things got hard, he'd ask, what would Qley do? I didn't know what to say. I was angry, but I was also honored and confused and mad at myself for even feeling honored. Aiden ran over a minute later with a crumpled drawing in his hand. It was a stick figure version of me, standing next to a dog that looked like a loaf of bread with legs. This is you and Clover, he said proudly. She has laser eyes. I smiled despite myself. That's very accurate. He handed me the picture, hugged my leg like he'd known me forever, and ran back to the slide. I didn't open the letter until that night. It was short. Handwritten in Marcus's messy, all-caps style. Kayla, I know you won't forgive me. I wouldn't forgive me either. I'm leaving because I don't know how to let you watch me fall apart. You deserve someone better. Someone who doesn't disappear when things get hard. I love you. That's the only thing I'm sure of. I'll never stop. MI folded it and put it back in the envelope. No tears, no big emotional explosion, just a hollow kind of sadness. The kind that doesn't hurt, just lingers. The next week, Marcus asked if I wanted to come with him to the zoo. I said no at first, then changed my mind. Not for him, for Aiden. He held my hand the whole time. Didn't ask for it, just reached up and grabbed it, like he'd done it 100 times before. Later that day, Lena showed up unannounced. She walked in, tossed her bag on the couch, looked at the drawing on my fridge, and raised an eyebrow. You're gonna explain that, right? I told her everything, start to finish. She listened with her arms crossed and her head tilted like she was holding back fire. When I finished, she said, okay, so when do I meet this kid who drew Clover with laser eyes? I hadn't made any decisions, still haven't. But I knew one thing. Something about Aiden pulled at a part of me I thought I'd sealed shut. And Marcus, he wasn't the same. There was still weight on his shoulders, but his arrogance was gone. He didn't want a second chance at love. He just wanted a chance to not screw this one thing up. And I wasn't ready to forgive him. But I was curious enough to keep showing up. If someone had told me even a month ago that I'd be spending weekends with my ex and his son at farmers markets, zoo trips, and random walks around the park, I would have laughed, or cried, or both. But here I was, pushing a shopping cart while Aiden tried to sneak an entire loaf of cinnamon bread under my arm, and Marcus held a reusable bag like he'd just discovered grocery shopping was a team sport. We weren't together. We didn't talk about us. But something was happening. Some weird gray space where time blurred and history sat in the back seat. I hadn't forgiven him, not even close. But for the first time in years, I didn't feel stuck in my own story. About 2 weeks after our zoo day, I finally let Aiden meet Clover. He was gentle with her, spoke softly, didn't rush. He held out his hand the way I taught kids to do with nervous dogs, and when she sniffed and flopped over beside him, he grinned like it was the best moment of his life. She likes me, he whispered. She doesn't like anyone, I whispered back, and that was true. But she liked him. Marcus was quieter now, more careful with his words. He didn't push for anything. Didn't try to call it a family moment or pretend we were picking up where we left off. But I could feel him watching, like he was trying to memorize every moment in case it disappeared again. I should have felt flattered. Instead, I felt pressure building in my chest, like something was about to drop. And I was right. It started with a folder. We were at my place, watching a movie Aiden had already seen 3 times, and Marcus stepped outside to take a call. His backpack was on the floor by the couch, slightly open. I wasn't snooping. I swear I wasn't. But a yellow tab caught my eye. Legal documents. I hesitated, then pulled it out. Inside were old court papers, custody, power of attorney, medical releases, some dating back 4 years. And there, tucked into the back, was a file with my name on it. Kayla Harper, unmarried, no biological relation, listed as preferred emergency contact in the event of guardian absence. I blinked hard, read it twice. 3 times. What the hell? When he came back in, I was holding the file. He froze. You want to explain this? I asked quietly, not to wake Aiden, who had knocked out on the couch. Marcus closed the door and sat down slowly. I was going to tell you, he said. I just needed time. You filed legal documents with my name on them, and you didn't think that was something I should know? I hissed. I did it years ago, he said. When his mom passed. I didn't know if I'd be able to handle it all. I didn't have anyone else I trusted. You hadn't even spoken to me in years, I said. And you put me on his emergency paperwork? I was wrong, he said. But I wasn't lying when I said I never stopped thinking about you. I stood there, completely speechless. Not because of the paperwork, not because he didn't tell me, but because part of me wasn't mad, and I wanted to be. It terrified me how much of that old version of me, who would have followed Marcus anywhere, still lived in the corners of my heart. But I wasn't 25 anymore. I wasn't the girl who waited around for explanations that never came. The next day, I asked Lena to come over. I told her everything. Finally, she sat with a bowl of popcorn in her lap, shaking her head like she was trying to keep herself from throwing the whole thing across the room. So let me get this straight, she said. He disappears for 6 years, shows up with a kid, and just happens to already have your name buried in court papers? Yeah. Kayla, that's not closure. That's a setup. I know how it sounds, I said, but he didn't ask me for anything. He still hasn't. That is the ask, she said. The ask is you. I didn't sleep much that night. I kept thinking about all the pieces that didn't quite fit. Why had he come back now? Why not sooner? And why did Aiden call me Kaya in his sleep like I'd always been there? A few days later, I took a risk and asked Marcus something I hadn't dared yet. Was there ever a chance he was mine? He looked startled, then sad. No, he said gently. Not biologically, but she, his mom, she knew about you. What do you mean? She found some old letters I'd written, he said, ones I never sent, about you, about what I lost. She knew I existed? Yeah, he said. She used to say, if anything happens to me and you're lost again, find her. I stared at him, stunned. She said Aiden deserved a version of me that wasn't broken, he added, and that you were the only one who'd ever seen that version. I don't remember saying anything after that. We just sat in silence while Aiden played with his bear in the next room. I wasn't angry. Not anymore. Just tired. Tired of people deciding who I was to them without asking me first. The next weekend, Aiden and I went to the aquarium. Just us. Marcus had a work thing, and I offered, not to be nice, but because I wanted to know what it felt like. Just the two of us. We walked past jellyfish, sea otters, sharks. He held my hand the whole time. And at one point, standing by the glass where a stingray glided past, he looked up and said, I'm glad you came back. I blinked. Back from where? He shrugged. Just back. I didn't correct him. I still don't know what I am to him. Not a mom. Not a stranger. Something in between. But that night, when I helped him tie his shoes and he leaned against me like he belonged there, I felt something shift. I wasn't doing this because I missed Marcus. I was doing it because I saw a kid who needed someone stable. And for once in my life, I realized I was the stable one. Aiden got sick the week everything changed. Just a virus, nothing serious. But when Marcus called me in a panic because he couldn't leave work and Aiden had a fever, I said, bring him here. No hesitation. By the time Marcus pulled up, Aiden was flushed, sniffly, and curled in the back seat with his bear. I brought him inside, laid him on the couch, and wrapped him in the same blanket my mom used on us when we were little. He asked if Clover could sit with him. She did. Didn't even growl. That kid had her wrapped around his finger. Marcus stayed for a while, long enough to see that Aiden was okay, long enough to sit across from me at the kitchen table like it was just another night in a life we never finished living. You're good with him, he said quietly. I didn't answer. Not right away. I was too focused on the ache in my chest, the kind that wasn't about grief or love or anger. It was something heavier. You should have told me sooner, I finally said. About the documents, about his mom, about all of it. I know. You were going to put all this on me without warning. I wasn't going to put anything on you, he said. I just kept hoping you'd want to choose it on your own. And that's what this had been from the start, hadn't it? A choice. He wanted me to choose them. And the truth was, I already had. But not for the reasons he thought. Not because I wanted a family. Not because I still loved him. Not even because I felt guilty. I chose Aiden because he showed up in my life and made room without asking for anything back. Because I saw myself in him. Not the eyes or the stubbornness, but the fear of being left. That night, after Marcus left, I sat by Aiden while he slept. He rolled over at one point and mumbled, "Don't go, Kayla." I didn't move, just sat there. I'd never heard a kid say my name like that. Like it meant something, like it mattered if I stayed. A week later, Marcus asked to meet at the park again. Alone. I almost said no, but I went. We sat on the same bench as before. Different air this time. He looked tired. He was fidgeting again. I've been offered a job in Denver, he said. It pays better. Better hours. Better support for Aiden. It's a good move. I nodded. Okay. He looked at me. I want you to come with us. I blinked. No. I said softly. He didn't argue. Didn't beg. He just closed his eyes and exhaled like he'd been expecting that answer. I figured, he said. Then I said what I'd been thinking for weeks. I don't want to be in a relationship with you, Marcus. I'm not that person anymore. I know. And you don't get to come back and expect me to rebuild what you broke. I don't expect that. But I added, I do want to be in Aiden's life, if you'll let me. He looked up at me with something I hadn't seen in him since he came back. Hope. You're the only person I'd trust with him, he said. He left for Denver 2 weeks later, and he took Aiden with him. I helped them pack, helped Aiden say goodbye to Clover, helped Marcus load up the car like we were just neighbors. The last thing Aiden said to me before they drove off, "Will you still be my person even if I'm far away?" I bent down, kissed the top of his head, and said, "Always." Now, every Friday night, we video call. He tells me about school, about the lizard his neighbor caught. Sometimes he asks me to tell him about when I was little. I tell him stories, some true, some a little made up. He laughs like he belongs to me, and in a way, he does. As for Marcus, we're not close, but we coexist. We talk about schedules, flights, birthdays. He respects my space. I respect his effort. I still don't forgive him. Maybe one day I will. Maybe not. But I don't wake up angry anymore. I don't wonder if I should have done more. Because I did exactly what I needed to do. People think closure comes from forgiveness, but sometimes it comes from choosing peace, even if you never got the apology you deserved. And sometimes life hands you a second chance that looks nothing like the first. No romance. No fairy tale. Just a quiet, consistent love for a kid who called you his person when you didn't even know you needed to be one. That's the story. He came back with a secret. But in the end, I wasn't the one who needed saving. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed, please like, share, and subscribe for more content. If you want to share your stories, please comment below. Additionally, what is your opinion on the poster's decision?